If you've been watching the Adjustable Neck series, waiting in anxious anticipation of the final episode where you get to see everything come together, we made it. Here we are. Let's do this. I did have to make one change as we put this together from my initial designs. Actually, I've made a couple of changes if you've been following, but the last change that I made was I didn't like the way that the grub screws fit into the head of the Phillips screws that we were using. In principle, I like the idea and it came together fine as a pivot, but the problem is I was getting too much side to side motion with the neck. I just didn't feel like the joint was good and stable, and I was just concerned about flexing the neck a little bit too much in that joint. So I went ahead and I replaced that with just a piece of hardwood that I rounded over to act as that pivot against the solid wood of the neck. So let me show you what that looks like. Okay, so there's two bolts in here, one in the top and then one that is captured. So let's take I'm gonna take the top one loose here a second. Top bolt. All right, let's loosen that captured bolt. Now with the neck off, you can see the change that I was talking about. I've got this piece here through the middle, and that is the rounded over piece of hardwood that I was talking about. So what happens here is that what you saw before in here was two grub screws that were side by side, directly parallel with the top bolt hole. I went ahead and pulled those out. This piece is directly over the top, still parallel with that hole to make sure that as we tighten that top bolt, that we're tightening directly on top of that pivot spot. Now for the neck, there really isn't any changes. As you can see, all that I have done is removed the two screws that I had in there as those pivots. So now that's just going to rest directly. The piece we put in here is just going to rest directly on the neck there, and we're just going to tighten down those two bolts. This body is all ready to go. We're ready to put the neck right back on here and go ahead and string it up. Now I will tell you, I have not tested this off camera, so we don't know when putting this under tension how the neck is going to perform. Hopefully everything comes out right, but I honestly don't know. So we're gonna go do this together. Let's give it a shot. I'm using a clamp here just because I want to make sure that the joint is seated well. I could probably just do this by hand, but this way it gives me a chance to tighten this top bolt and make sure everything is good and seated there at the edge. Okay, I'm bringing you in close so you can see the movement on the neck. So that would be increasing the string action, so that's bringing it back, actually tipping the front of the neck up, and then decreasing the string height. We're bringing the neck down towards the headstock side. You can see the gap increase there. So that would be reducing the action. That all looks good. And I'm just gonna double check that even through that motion of adjustment, I wanna make sure that I'm still tight on that top bolt, and I am. That has not loosened up at all. One of the things that I'm noticing as I'm getting a little bit of tension on these early strings is that it is drawing the neck up a little bit. That's to be expected. It's just seating that bolt because it's never had any pressure on it into that slot. So I'm just going to give it a twist here to take that action down a little bit. Okay, just putting a small gap back underneath of there. We'll see if that continues as I get more strings on it. Okay, that's holding good there too from a gap perspective. That's been solid for the last 2 strings that I've put on. Okay, let's bring it up to pitch. Make sure that bridge looks good. Always a little nerve-wracking the first time putting tension on everything. Under full tension, it rested back down a little bit again. So I think I'm gonna loosen the strings a little bit and go ahead and pull that up to reduce some of it. Well, let's just see where the string height is. All right, so right now I'm sitting at, ooh, we're high. Okay, so about 0.13, almost 0.14, almost all the way off my scale. Okay, so I've got to come down anyways. So let me take the pressure off these strings a little bit, just so that we can go ahead and raise or lower the action and then raise the back of the neck, lower the front. Carefully get my screwdriver in there. Okay, I can already see one problem. I need a different tool for this. I have one of those fancy truss rod turning tools, and that's the same size. I wonder if I could use that. Which way do I gotta turn? Well, I put a nice little label on that. I should read the label. Okay, we're gonna decrease the action, so we're actually gonna turn that way. Okay. I just need different hands, that's all. Okay, supers. Get my hand back out there. Oh. Okay. Let's see, are we close? Oh, that's perfect. It totally worked. And check out the neck angle, the actual gap underneath of the extension. So it's floating, right? But the gap underneath of it is perfectly parallel with the radiused top from the beginning of where it meets up here all the way to the back. That's incredible. It's perfect. I love it. I've got to play it. It's time. Resonance is good. So one thing that I'm concerned about when I put this together is the movement on the neck. Since it's adjustable, is it problematic as you're playing, or with how you're putting forces on the neck? Are you actually altering the tuning a bit? So I'm curious about that, because yeah, see, I can bend the neck down and throw the tuning out. Now, I can do that in pretty much every direction, but I'm wondering how much different that is from one of my other guitars. Let me grab one and check real quick. Okay, this one is my my OG guitar, if you will. This is the very first build that I did. The interesting thing about this one is it's the only guitar that I've ever done with an actual dovetail neck. So this would be like your traditional everything glued up. There's no bolts or anything in this one, so everything is glued. Let's try bending the neck a little bit here. I guess it's really about the same. I suppose maybe it's a little easier to do that on the adjustable neck, but from playing it, like, I don't see how that's going to be any kind of an issue. It still feels solid. I don't feel like that's a problem. So it's wood, right? You can still bend it if you put pressure on it, but I still feel like that's fine. You know, there's one more thing I actually would like to try. If y'all remember from Clay's build video, he built very similar. It's actually the same exact series as the one we just built. It's our workhorse series. So it's the same forms when he built his. Same soundboard wood, same bracing pattern. It just doesn't have that adjustable neck. So I'd love to hear how his compares in sound with this new one, and to see whether freeing up that fretboard extension over the soundboard actually helps with the sound in any way or changes that in any way. Let me see if he's available real quick that he can play. I'll be right back. Okay, so this one's yours, obviously, your name's in there. Why don't we start with, just for a good comparison, we got brand new strings on this, brand new strings on the new one. Yep. So we should be at a good comparison spot. Why don't you start with like just some cowboy chord kinds of things, and then maybe we can get into a little bit of fingerstyle too. Okay? Cool. All right, let's start there. Try some fingerstyle?
Sure.
Okay.
The hammer on, man. The hammer on and pull off. Ah.
This is why I got you to do the finger picking.
Over it.
You're better at it than I am.
Overall, it felt pretty much the same.
Okay.
I'd say.
So this one being that you've got more, a thicker extension over the top. Mm-hmm. Strings are still in the same position, like it's a little higher here, but if you're not playing a lot up here, but I noticed that you did some finger styling up here, so I was kind of curious if it felt any different, but...
I didn't feel much of a difference,
okay.
Which was good.
All right.
So...
Well, good.
Overall,
I guess it passes.
Overall, I like it. Yeah,
good deal.
Really good.
All right.
Sure.
Well, thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. You're a better finger stylist than me. Okay, so where did we land with this whole adjustable neck thing? When I started this, I had three main design principles. I wanted to make sure that the adjustable nut, or whatever mechanism that I had to adjust the neck, was not visible on the outside. Check. The next one was I wanted to make sure that I had a rigid heel. Check. And then the last one was I wanted to limit the gap, the visibility of the gap, as the fingerboard extension is over top of the soundboard. Check. Now that first design principle ended up being just a little bit of a challenge. Having the adjustable nut on the inside of the guitar proved to be pretty difficult to get your hand in there and actually make the adjustment. Plus, doing that at full string tension, not only is it difficult to get your hand in there, it's really difficult to turn that nut against the forces of the full tension. So you really have to slack the strings. Now, you still have the full adjustability, so it still works, just not exactly the way that I intended it to, but it's still good overall. And one of the other concerns that I had was this fingerboard extension being over top of the soundboard but not fixed to the soundboard. Was it going to be rigid enough to handle just the regular playing action, or would it bend under those conditions? And I was happy to report that was absolutely fine. This is more than rigid enough to handle any kind of playing condition that you're going to apply to it. Oh, and the other thing that we were interested in, we're not attaching that fretboard extension to the soundboard, so the theory was it should be more responsive. It should have the opportunity to resonate more. So we went ahead and we compared it against Clay's. Same body style, same woods, same dimensions. His just has a glued fixed neck. Did you hear the difference? Yeah, me neither. And since I couldn't determine anything by ear, I took a little bit more of a scientific approach, utilizing some deflection testing and the resonant frequency of the soundboard. I could determine its overall stiffness, and then using that, I could ultimately determine the monopole mobility of the soundboard. Now, monopole mobility is just a fancy word to say how easily does the soundboard react to a plucked string. This guitar came in at a 17. Clay's identical model with the fixed neck came in at a 16. Now I'm typically building guitars in the 18 to 21 range in terms of the responsiveness of the top. So I would suggest that specifically looking at a fixed versus an adjustable neck, there is no measured difference between the two in terms of responsiveness of the top. So the big question is, would I do this again? Is this my new build standard? Yes. No. Maybe. Now hear me out. This guitar met all of the design goals that I had for it. I got a fully adjustable neck. That's what I was after. But there was one thing along the way that I thought maybe there's an opportunity for an improvement. You heard me mention early on, Taylor gets credit for the removable adjustable neck. But in order to achieve that, they have to use some pretty heavy blocking underneath. That's for that shimming process that they use to be bolted on the fretboard and then bolted on the heel. I think that that's ultimately where there's an opportunity to blend the two ideas, because I like the idea of this floating fretboard so I don't have to do that heavy blocking, but I'd get the rigidity of the connection if I used a shim. So what if I just shimmed the heel block against that and use that as the adjustable side? Now I'd still have to remove it and reshim it just like they do, but I like the idea that I'd be lightening up the guitar and I wouldn't require that level of bracing that they are using. Now I realize that takes away from the whole design intent of a fully adjustable neck, but I think there's actually room for both designs to exist. They each bring their own set of features to the table. I may just have to try that other design on my next build. This whole project was a success. We met all of the design criteria goals that we had and ended up with a fully functional adjustable neck. I hope that you learned a ton along the way, learning from some of my mistakes, and that you'll apply those to your own inspiration as you innovate on your own design for an adjustable neck. And don't forget, bring all those learnings back here so that we can all learn from each other. I'll catch y'all next time.